Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Friday morning warm-up. I'm Dave Warren, and we're going to be doing just a few little things on the ukulele which will help us warm up our fingers and our minds towards playing, and a little bit of strumming and one or two other little things. We're going to start off with a thing called the spider walk, which you may or may not have done before, but I'll show you that anyway. And we're in the key of C major again. We've gone back to the first key that we started on many months ago. And one of the reasons is because last week, a couple of weeks ago rather, I did that explanation of where all the chords come from in the key of C. So it's kind of a memory jogger for that, just to put that into context as well. So let's get started. Now what we're going to do first of all is not going to make very much noise, because we're going to do a thing called the spider walk. And it's a way of warming up your fingers on the ukulele. Now just before we do that, I think it's probably best if you just sort of wiggle your fingers around and shake your hands and just get the blood flowing a little bit, in case it's still, you know, you've only just woken up and things haven't started moving properly yet. So just wiggle your fingers. Always a good idea to do this before you're playing anyway, because of course it you know, lubricates the joints and helps things move more freely. So that's right, wiggle your fingers. Even rubbing your hands together and warming them up, or even holding a nice hot cup of tea or coffee, does actually help. So anything like that is a good idea before. An athlete, for example, wouldn't just go straight onto a long distance run. They'd warm up beforehand and get the muscles relaxed and so on. So okay, right, now take your ukulele. And we're going to, first of all, take your four fingers on your fretting hand, which is left hand for most people, and just place them on the first four frets of the G string. So I don't know if you can see that on my screen, but I'm just placing them just gently. We're not going to play anything. We're just going to rest them on the first four frets. Yeah, frets 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm calling the little finger number 4, the ring finger 3, the second finger second, that one, forgot what it's called, the index finger second, and the first finger number 1. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the spider walk. What I'd like you to do, and it's always best not to press too hard, press lightly, is first of all just concentrate your mind on your third and fourth fingers, and at the same, lift them both at the same time. You can waggle them about if you want once they're lifted, and then lower them onto the next string on the same 2 frets. Now if you haven't done that before, that might take a bit of concentration, but you're all ukulele players, so that's probably not so hard. Then so gently lower them onto the C string, same 2 frets. And then leave them there and pick up the first and second fingers. This will be a little bit easier because those fingers are a bit more agile and easy to control. And then lower them down onto the first 2 frets of the C string. So they're on the same string again. And repeat. Lift up the third and fourth and lower them onto the E string. And it's important to pick them up at the same time and lower them at the same time, not one after the other. If that's difficult, then that's what's to practice. And that's it. Then we pick up the first and second fingers. There we go. And if you can see that on my screen, and drop them onto the E string and continue. So we're moving the third and fourth now onto the last string, and then the first and second onto the last string as well. So we should be on the A string now, all 4 fingers. Okay, let's go back the other way. So lift up the third and fourth, lower that onto the E string, lift up the first and second, lower that onto the E string. I think you've got the idea. Lift up the third and fourth onto the C string, lift up the third and fourth onto the C string as well, and then the final pair onto the G string, and we're back onto the G string. Good. This is something you can practice or use to warm your fingers up. obviously, if you can't make a noise for some reason, somebody might be in the room watching television, for example. So that's a good way to warm up. Now, we haven't finished yet, because that's just the first one. Now we're going to move on to the next step. This time, lift up the middle two fingers together and do the same thing. Move on to the C string. Once you've done that, lift up the first and fourth, the outer fingers, and move that onto the C string. Now lift up the middle two fingers again. And now lift up the outer fingers onto the, where are we up to now? The E string. And lift up the middle two again onto the A string. And then the outer fingers onto the A string. So we're all on the last string now. Okay, let's just work our way back, starting to look a bit more like a spider, isn't it? Four-legged spider, admittedly, or one side of a spider. So middle two fingers up, outer two fingers up, middle two fingers up to the C string, outer two fingers, middle two fingers, outer two fingers. Right, one more to go. How about this one? Concentrate hard on your fingers. Lift up the first and third fingers. Now it really does look like a spider. Now lift up the first and third fingers and move them to the C string. Now lift up the second and fourth fingers. Lift up the first and third again onto the E string. No, we're onto the, yeah, that's right, the E string, yeah. And now lift up the, oh, I'm struggling here. Oh, done it. Second and fourth fingers onto the E string. This is definitely harder. And then we're going to move the first and third onto the A string, and finally the second and fourth onto the A. If you've never done that before, you'll be doing very well if you manage to get there without any trouble. That means you've got very good coordination, mental coordination over your fingers. So let's just work our way back then. So first and third onto the back up a string, second and fourth back up a string, third and fourth back up to the C, second and fourth back up to the C, and then finally back up to the G string. There we go. Right, that's a warm-up you weren't expecting. Okay, that's the quietest I've ever heard you as well. Now you might be thinking, what's the benefit of that? Well, as you know, when you're changing chords, fingers are moving independently. And this is part of a sort of a practice that you can do, which enables you to have more control over those fingers. Now, a quirk of the anatomy of the body, and I'm not fully conversant with this, is that the muscles, you don't have four independent muscles and tendons for each of the fingers. So they're not completely independent of each other. They share the same muscles in some cases. So therefore, that's one reason why if you try to stick out your first finger, that's easy. But if you stick out your third finger, everything else seems to go with it, because of the sharing of muscles. However, what you do have is a brain which can control those fingers, and that is the bit that can be taught to create independence of each of the fingers. So that's why it's a mental task rather than a physical one. You're stuck with those muscles and the combinations, but your brain can still be trained to move independently. Good. Right, well that's the spider walk done. And let's move on to more musical things. So I'm just going to put onto the screen the sheet for today. So let's just gently strum, just a single strum of the 6 main chords in C, and you could perhaps start to memorize these. You'll notice there's a pattern actually. They go in alphabetical order, C, D, E, F, G and A, but there's a pattern, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor. So you could say, all after me, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor. Okay, so let's go. C major, let's give that a little strum. D minor, E minor, F, G, and A minor. And they're the 6 chords that we developed in our session 2 weeks ago when I showed you how chords come about, where they come from. And in the key of C major, they are the 6 chords. So, okay. Thank you, Suzanne, for your comment. Okay, today's strumming pattern I've shown on the screen there, down, down, up, down, down, up. So anything we strum today, I'd like you to stick to that pattern. Try not to let yourself drift off into your familiar patterns, the ones you like. Just see if you can stick to that particular pattern. And let's just strum the chord C to that, that particular strumming pattern. So that's down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Yeah, that's the pattern. I'm just going to put the metronome on, and you might not hear that, but at least it will keep me in time. So just a C chord, just to get going. After 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and down, down, up, down, down, up. Okay. Oh, getting a bit of sound here from somebody. So can you just check that you're muted, everybody? Because I thought I'd muted all, but it might just be Zoom. There's a leak, a leak on Zoom. It does happen every now and again that a bit of sound comes through from. But I heard a bit of distinctive strumming there. So anyway, that's okay. It's not going to upset us too much. Good, good, good. Let's just put a couple of chords together and do that strumming pattern. So we'll pick a couple of random chords. Actually, I'm going to pick an easy one and a harder one, just to give you a bit more to think about. We're going to strum that pattern, but go from C to E minor. Okay, so that's E minor is 0, 4, 3, 2, 0, 4, 3, 2. So C to E minor, and we'll do that pattern twice on each chord after 4. 1, 2, 3. So C, 1. Now E minor. Back to C. So we're on C again. Back to E minor. Back to C. And then we'll finish on C. Okay, now I'm just going to interject here with a little idea, and this might be good for groups. Now, when you've got a number of people strumming and everyone's strumming at the same time, that's fine and it's good fun. But sometimes you think, can I do something else? And I know some of you know how to do finger picking, where you pick out individual patterns on the ukulele. But there is another thing you can do, and that's just to play single notes. So just a little idea here. Now if you take those 2 chords, first of all C, you'll notice that you've got a finger on the 3rd fret. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Of the A string. Now that note happens to be a C. You don't need to know that, but it's nice to know. Now if you play the E minor chord, you'll notice that the 1st finger is on the 2nd fret. And that happens to be a B. So at the same time as I'm strumming C, then E minor, you could actually pluck just those single notes. Just pluck them on each and I think you'll start to hear little melodies. And this is a very simple one because we've only just started with 2 notes. So for this time, I'm going to strum the C and E minor. I'm actually going to only do 1 pattern of each, and I'd like you to pluck the 3rd fret and then the 2nd fret at the same time as I change chords from C to E minor. Now that's a very simple example, and you can imagine though that with lots of different chords you could play more sophisticated, interesting little melodies at the same time, and these are like little backing lines. So we'll just try that for now. This is just a little example. We're not going to spend the rest of the session doing this. I just wanted to throw in this little idea. So pluck the 3rd fret of the A string when I start strumming after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the 2nd fret. Back to the 3rd fret. And the 2nd fret. Just keep repeating that. And can you hear how it fits in with what I'm playing? Just one more time. There we go. And finish on the 3rd fret. There we go. So just to can't think of the word. Just to repeat what I was going to say. So you're going to be playing the 3rd fret, just a single note, and then the 2nd fret. So that's what you'll be hearing from your instrument. Okay, one more time. So you pluck those notes, I'll do the strumming. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the 2nd fret. Back to the 3rd fret, 2nd fret. Let's finish on the 3rd fret, and okay, that's a little idea that we're going to come back to that in future sessions and elaborate on it a little bit more. So okay, let's move on now to the strumming pattern number 1. It's a nice easy one, but I'm going to get you to do something slightly different. So you've all played this before because we've done it in previous sessions. So right now, this time I want you to memorize that. C, F, C, G7. Okay, so just clock that in your brains. You can memorize it. It might be easier by actually just moving your fingers through the chord shapes just to help yourself memorize it, because visually looking at those letters is one thing, but if you can connect that with actual chord changes as well as the shapes, that helps you memorize it. Okay, have you all got that? C, F, C, G7. Right, I'm gonna get that off the screen. Okay, here we go. 1. I hope nobody wrote it down. That doesn't matter because I'm going to get you to do something. Let's just strum C, F, C, G7. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. C. Now F. Now C. Now G7. Finish on the C. Good. I hope that worked all right. Now, this is what I'd like you to do. Don't worry, it's nothing too alarming. I'd like you to do exactly the same thing, but with your eyes closed. Okay, just close your eyes and have a quick check you're in the right place on the C chord. Here we go. Eyes shut. 1, 2, 3, 4. F. C. G7. You remember that? Here we go again then, on your own. Eyes shut. this time, just think of your fingers and how they feel, and what you can feel through your fingertips. And listen to the sound. Is it nice and even? Or is it a little bit jumpy? And finish on the C, and okay, and always a good thing to do if you can strum something with your eyes shut, then it means you're starting to learn it and play more naturally, rather than reading it off a sheet of paper. So always make an attempt to memorize first of all, and one of the reasons for having your eyes closed is so that you could open them and look somewhere else when you're playing, rather than necessarily at a sheet of paper or at the ukulele itself. Nothing wrong in those things, but ideally, one thing I always say is that if you watch professional musicians, on television or on stage, and look at what they're doing, and in a way imitate them. Actually look at them and thinking, he's got this lovely expression and he's looking over this side of the room and he's smiling at the audience, but he's playing wonderfully. And so that's what's to aspire to. If you can imitate that as best as you can, then you're partly on the way to becoming like that. And I always think it's best, if they're up there and they're playing and they're doing all that, they must be doing the right thing. So so look at the masters and do your best to imitate them. Even in front of a mirror, why not? That's why we do it. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to another strumming pattern now. We're going to go into pattern number 2. Now this time I'm not going to expect you to memorize it, not today anyway, not the next minute or so. So I've got it on the screen for you to look at, and we will strum that, because all I want you to do this time is just strum through all the chords in C major, and I've come up with this chord progression which happens to have all the chords in it. It's actually based on Pachelbel's canon in D major in the key of C. So okay, we're going to strum that, and we're just going to go round. So we'll just do that strumming pattern twice for each chord. Yeah, that's 8 bars, not 8 bars, 8 chords, so that'll be 16 bars in total. So just follow that whole sequence. Here we go. After 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now G, A minor, E minor, D minor, C, G7. Okay, just follow the screen. 2, 3, 4. 7, and just finish on the chord C. 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're going to play the same chord sequence, same strumming pattern, but only one strumming pattern per chord. So it's going to go around twice as quickly. Okay, so same sequence, same chords, 1 bar per chord. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. G, A minor, E minor, D minor, C, F, G7. Off you go. Let's do that one more time. C, G, G7, finish on the C, and okay, there we have a nice little chord progression there in the key of C major, and that finishes today's warm-up. So let me just take that off the screen and say thank you very much everybody for coming along. I hope you found that warming, I suppose is the right way to put it, because it was a warm-up, and interesting at the same time, and giving you some ideas maybe. So we'll be back next in 2 weeks' time, of course, as always. And as I say, if anyone needs to go on the mailing list, just let me know. And I think that's it from me. So if you'd like to unmute yourselves and just say goodbye to all your friends and so on, I'll stick that on YouTube for anybody who wants to watch it.
Okay, John.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.